Hold up.
Oh, hey everyone. We're glad you're here. Hope you all remembered to not sign in, because once again, we're online. CIY move? Just get signed up. It's gonna be a fun time. Current series, save the date. We're not meeting next week because of spring break, and why are you even here?
Well, after I got out of prison, I was looking for a job, and I thought, this place is my home now. So, I'm a prison guard now. You can call me Jailer Joe.
Hold up.
Anyways, I got a joke for you.
Okay.
What is a jailer's favorite game?
What?
Hangman.
We gotta go. We'll see you guys next week. Not because spring break, the week after that. See ya.
Hey guys, I hope you're doing well and staying safe, staying healthy. This week we are back for our last and final week of our series on Christian dating and high school. You know, back in the day, like 15 years ago, if you wanted to get to know somebody, if you wanted to date somebody, you actually had to talk to them. You had to get to know them, you had to think of ways that you could bump into them and interact with them in public, maybe go on a friend group outing. Maybe you suggested like a friend date. It wasn't really a couple's date, but it was just something that was an excuse for all of you to get together as friends so that you could get to know that person that you were interested in. Well, nowadays, that's obviously not the case. You can get to know the person that you're interested in pretty well just by stalking them online. If you're looking for conversation starters or talking points, you can probably find out what kind of food they're into because everybody's taking Instagrams of their food. Or you can see what other kind of interests they have. Sometimes it's in their bio. Sometimes you just see that they're posting at practice or at a game or whatever. You can kind of see what their interests are. If they're a musician, sometimes people post videos of themselves playing guitar and singing, something like that. If you want to know who they hang around and who their friends are, then you can find that online as well. You can see who's in their profile pictures, who's in their other pictures, who else has tagged them in stuff, and you can stalk their friends, and you can pretty much get a good idea and a pretty good picture of what someone is like just from a bird's eye view by looking online. That's something that's pretty new in our society and something that we couldn't do in the past. Now, I'm not trying to creep you out or anything, but most of us have a lot of our business out there for people that we don't mind that people know what our likes and dislikes are, that kind of thing. With one exception, you don't necessarily want it to be public business who it is that you're crushing on, who you want to date, who you're working up the guts to ask out, or anything like that. Case in point, one of the guys who were in my small group, they were texting me earlier, and they said that they had a crush on this person that they were wanting to ask out. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. That'd be really funny though. Some of my guys, I hope you got nervous just then, but I would never do that because that is pretty uncomfortable, right? There's certain things about our lives that we don't want people to know, and that's not a bad thing either. There's just certain things that we don't want broadcast for everybody to see and know about. And the same is true for a lot of people who are already in relationships, right? Like most of us, you look at people's grids and you can see who they're in pictures with, and most people don't have a problem with other people knowing who they're dating. But the intimate part about your guys' relationships, like your inside jokes or what your last fight was about or anything like that, you don't want that to be public knowledge. You don't put that out for other people. I'm just saying it's a real thing if you might want to keep your dating life a little more low-key. And there's probably a lot of reasons to that as well. One of them might be like we're just more private people. We're uncomfortable sharing certain things. Maybe we don't know how we feel about the other person yet, and so we're at the beginning stages of dating, and we don't want necessarily everybody to know about it in case it doesn't work out, right? You're still getting to know each other, and You're uncomfortable everybody knowing, and that's okay. Maybe you're just not ready for everybody to tease you or ask questions about it. Another reason you might want to keep your relationship low-key is that this is just an area you dislike other people's input about. Maybe when you first got in a relationship and it was new and great, then you were telling your friends all about it, but then after a while it's like, okay, I don't need your input anymore, I've got this. And so we just dislike other people's unsolicited advice when it comes to our dating life. Or maybe another reason we keep it low-key is because we're afraid that the people who know us best would disapprove of the relationship. Maybe the person you're interested in has a reputation that you're not even proud of, and you know that your friends don't approve of, and so you don't want them all up in your business telling you that you shouldn't date that person. That person's not right for you. Maybe that person that you're interested in doesn't have the best reputation around town, but when he's with you, he's different, right? He's sensitive. He shows you his softer side, or whatever it is. Maybe the person that you're interested in is not well liked, but you like them, and there's good reasons for it. But you don't want other people to share their disapproval about the situation, so we just rather keep it low key. Maybe actually your parents wouldn't approve of it. Maybe that's the last reason you would want to keep it low key. You just don't want your parents knowing about it because you know no matter who you date, your parents are going to disapprove because they don't want you dating in high school. So you just don't want them to even know that that person exists in your life. Or maybe it just feels like your parents are so old that back when they started dating, in ancient times before smartphones and online stalking, that they couldn't possibly have relevant advice to give to you today. They don't understand the dating world today in high school. And I get those concerns, although I'll tell you, parents deserve a little more credit than you think. Our parents actually have some pretty good advice most of the time when it comes to this topic, because most of the important stuff still translates today. But that's besides the point. So while we can all see that there's lots of reasons maybe we would want to distance ourselves from other people and want to keep our relationship low key and not necessarily make a fuss about anything, some of you that's not the case. And to be honest, you're all smart people, and you probably see that there's some downsides to this whole nobody knows thing as well. When you keep people at arm's reach, when you don't let people in on certain aspects of your life, that can lead to some minor or major relational disasters and life crises. We've been calling this series Save the Date because we're wanting to save our dating lives from some of the worst mistakes and some of the things that would make it less good or just not great when it comes to our relationships, when it comes to our dating lives. And so as we wrap up this whole series this week, we're actually going to be reading from Solomon, who is David's son. If you remember from last week's lesson, David was our example. He was the story we read from 2 Samuel, and Solomon is his son. So Solomon was known as the wisest king to have ever lived. God bestowed some godly wisdom in him that in scripture it says was unmatched by anybody else who ever lived or who ever would live, except for Jesus, obviously. So he's a pretty wise guy, and especially when it comes to life and relationships. And so let's look at what he says here in the book of Proverbs. For lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors. Now, this is not like everyday language. We're not kings. We don't have advisors. Usually when we think of advisors, we think of a school advisor or guidance counselor or something like that. And the king had advisors around him. But basically what we just mean by this is that he had people in his corner that he could go to for advice about life and about him specifically decision making when it came to running the kingdom. And here's what Solomon knew to be true. If we only rely on ourselves for guidance and direction when it comes to life and just decisions, relationships, there's bound to be a time where we're going to fall. Take this for example. If we were all meeting physically, I would have had a much cooler way to give this example. But imagine we're up in our youth area upstairs and I turn all the lights out. Now, I can pull up my phone and I can turn the flashlight on and I can see everything around me. I can see just kind of a short distance ahead what my iPhone flashlight will show me, and it'll suffice for a little bit. It'll show me, I'm not going to trip over myself because I can see my feet. But how much better would I be able to see if I had all the small group leaders in the room turn on their phone flashlights as well? And then all of a sudden, different parts of the room start lighting up, and actually I can see a bigger picture of what's in the space. Maybe there's a row of chairs that weren't put away, and I would have tripped on it had I not seen the light from my other small group leaders in the room shining their light. My point is this: when we only use our own perspective, things are limited. Our vision is limited, our ability to make wise choices is limited, and it's going to be much easier for us to trip up and make mistakes because we don't have the people around us, maybe people who have lived longer than us or have more life experience, to be able to shine the way on some of the mistakes they've made in different ways that they can help us succeed. when we only see things from our perspective, from our own vantage point, which is limited. I mean, everybody's limited. Nobody knows everything. Then we're bound to trip up. We're not going to see the whole picture, and we're actually going to have a very limited picture in the grand scheme of things. Because, to be honest, we all need people to rely on. Kind of like we talked about last week. David had Nathan, and we challenged you last week to find your Nathan. Who's the person that you can talk about, that you can go to for advice when it comes to just life in general, but especially dating. And none of us make mistakes because we're trying to, obviously. It happens because we're solely relying on our own experience, our own perspective, our own reasoning, because we've left other people in the dark. That's why it's so important not to leave people in the dark when it comes to every aspect of your life. We're going through a similar series for middle schoolers right now, and it's called None of Your Business. And I like the way that whole series is set up, because the reality is not everything should be everybody's business. I mean, you don't need to air out all your dirty laundry for everybody to see. Not everything is everybody's business. But everything in your life should be somebody's business. There shouldn't be anything in your life that only you know about. And that can be scary because it causes us to be vulnerable. It forces us to bring people in, let people in see the good, the bad, and the ugly within our own lives. But it's critical if we're going to remain standing when it comes to life, when it comes to dating, when it comes to just success in every area. We have to have people in our life giving us their wiser, more experienced perhaps perspective. And it's especially true when it comes to our dating lives, because that's the area I think it makes us feel mature, it makes us feel grown up when we're dating somebody, especially when we're young, maybe in high school. And so it kind of makes us feel like, oh, well, I've got this. You know, I can handle a relationship, I can make decisions on my own, and some of that's true, but we all are limited, like we've said. And especially when you're new to it, especially when you're young, it's really easy to make a judgment call in the moment or in the midst of your relationship that is way off. And there's not really a way for you to know that it's off unless you have outside perspectives. So my point is this: don't date in the dark. If you want to save the date, you want to have the best dating life that you could possibly have, then don't date in the dark. Your dating life will be much better if your friends are friends with the people that you're dating. If you actually are friends with the person that you're dating before you start dating. Because when you just start a relationship without really knowing the person, and you're getting to know that person for the first time on a romantic level, then it takes a lot longer to get to know the real person. When you're friends with someone first, then that actually gives you the best perspective to be able to get to know somebody in their good and bad moments without the pressure of trying to impress them. It's not a requirement, that's a side note, that's a caveat of mine. And it doesn't mean that your relationship is bound to fail if you weren't friends first before you started dating. But I've found, in my experience and in my mentors in my life, that that's just the best way to go about things if you can. The reality is you only know what you know. And maybe that's 14, 15, 17 years of experience. And I don't know, that's in the grand scheme of things, in the span of, an 80-year lifespan, or in the span of eternity, that's pretty limited. That's a pretty limited perspective. And so it also shows humility and maturity when we're able to bring other people in. It's not a sign of maturity to be able to do things on our own. And that's a misconception. You only know what you know. So show the maturity of bringing other people into your relationship, and that will actually help you a lot in the long run. So how do you find many advisors, like Solomon says? How do you even recruit people to be those voices in your life? Because it can feel kind of weird, right? What's the first step in getting there? And I want to give you a few things. One, think of somebody who can be objective. This will tie in a lot to what we talked about last week with finding your Nathan, but you have to find somebody who can be objective with you. People in your life that will truly be honest, regardless of if it's what you want to hear, but they just truly want what's best for you. And sometimes that means giving tough love and telling you the hard truths. So find somebody who can be objective in your life, not somebody who's just going to root you on and approve of every decision you make, and also not somebody who seems like they're always against you and always, finding the negatives and everything. Find the people who can speak positive in your life too, but find the people who can be objective and be honest with you. Secondly, find somebody who's older than you. Kind of like we've already beat to the ground in this lesson. Don't find somebody with just your own limited amount of experience. Find somebody who's been around the block a time or two. And again, parents are great for this. I know it's weird to sometimes talk about your dating life to your parents, but they can really be a great resource for this. Your small group leaders, again, always great. Lastly, the third thing is just reach out. And this is probably one of the hardest things, because it's that first step that is potentially the most awkward and hardest to establish. There's a student who actually graduated from our area a few years ago, and they're in college right now, and they reached out to me recently and just wanted to grab some lunch. And so we hung out a little bit, and he was basically just like, I don't really have anybody in my life that I can go to. I'm dealing with this question specifically, and also just in other areas of my life. Would you help me process some of these things? And I was happy to do it, right? I hadn't really interacted with this person much at all since they graduated high school, but it was a great opportunity to be able to say, I'd be happy to share some of my limited insight with you, and to be able to help you process things, and kind of be that older and wiser voice in your life. And as somebody who's been on that end of it, it is an honor, and it's somebody that I know if you ask somebody, they're going to be, thrilled to be able to have the purpose in their life and to be able to actually invest in you. Because I think most of us think that, we're a nuisance to people. People are busy. We don't want to bog people down or annoy people. But the reality is, that's just not the case. And most of the time, people are happy to be able to be a good influence in your life. Most people actually really like you. So don't be afraid to reach out. And for maybe the many of you that are watching this that are not in a dating relationship, or have never been in a dating relationship, or don't even have anybody on the horizon, this is still super key, because it applies in every area of our lives. But most of us, we want to be dating somebody at some point. We want to make good life decisions. We want to be able to have people to help us process our decisions with. And so having a bunch of advisors for your life is still a really, really powerful thing. So take dating out of the equation. If there's anything you get out of this, it's that everybody needs a Nathan. Everybody needs people that they can depend on, that they can go to for advice, and that they can have as just life advisors, life coaches, however you want to think about it, mentors. Everybody needs that. So don't give up. Don't feel like maybe this doesn't apply to you. But find those people who can be objective, older than you, and reach out to them. And here's the thing. You will never regret having lots of advisors. You will never regret it. It will make your life immensely greater. It'll make you feel more confident in the decisions you are making. And it'll help you just to know that you've got someone in your corner, someone who's got your back, who is there to help you carry your burdens. So dating is better when you don't date in the dark. So that's what we got this week. That wraps up our series on Save the Date. I hope that this has been very meaningful for you, and I hope you can take it and apply it to your life. I love you guys, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Don't forget, we're not meeting, but we're not having another thing this upcoming week, because it was supposed to be spring break. We don't have anything planned in our curriculum, but follow us on Instagram, connect with us on YouTube, subscribe, and we're going to be making an extra effort to be able to be there for you guys and put out some more content so that we can be more engaging in the midst of this crazy time. So again, if you ever need anything, don't feel afraid to reach out, and we've got your back. We're here for you. We love you guys, and have a great week. Oh, and also don't forget about your Google Hangout with your small group when you're done with this video. We're meeting at 7:30 tonight, so unless you hear differently from your small group leader. So now that's it. See you guys.